So here's my thoughts. What does all this mean for us going forward, right? So one is the two parties are not the same. We need to reject in every way possible this notion that there's a left and a right and they're kind of equally virtuous and equally at fault for the problems facing the country. It's just not true. There's been a good party that's governed well and another party that's continually not done its part when they've been in power. We have to establish at some point this fundamental asymmetry, this contrast, rather than allowing this kind of facile, simple, well, there's two parties and they're kind of the same, right? We didn't create an insurrection in 2021. I mean, go down your list of things of how we're not the same. We're not the same. And we need to reject any attempt by anybody, including people in our party, to create an equivalency between the left and the right. It's really important. We also, I think, need to recognize that we are in a period that to me feels a lot more like 1945, 46, 47 than it does 1932, 33, 34, meaning that we've come out, the world is coming out of a collective trauma. There's been a lot that's been unsettled. We have more refugees today in the world than we've ever had in world history. We need to recognize Joe Biden needs to not just build back better here, but we need to build back better around the world. We have to, we were called once before, our party in the 1940s, to lead the fight against authoritarianism, to preserve democracy and freedom here and around the world. And I think we're being called again. I think this is an analogous moment to that period where, we are being called to defend democracy and freedom in this global order that our party built in the 1940s. And it's really important, I think, as we go forward to go get back connected to this speech that FDR gave and the argument FDR made in 1941 in his State of the Union address, where he laid out the famous four freedoms. To me, this is the most important political speech ever given in American English, the most consequential one, certainly, because this basic framework, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, freedom from fear, so elegant, so simple, right, so powerful, became the framework in which the post-World War II era was built upon, right? This was in the Atlantic Charter. It's in the Charter of the United Nations. It's our theory of the case where we didn't imagine a world of dominion where there were some people in charge of other people. We imagined a world of freedom. This is really important, right? This is the great liberal vision, right, coming out of World War II. And this was the idea of a world that we wanted to build, that our party wanted to build. We chose freedom as opposed to dominion and authority over one another, right? And that world that we imagined and built has created a golden age for humankind. There's never been a time to be alive in all of human history where people have had more opportunity, have lived such good lives as they're living today. Life expectancy has gone through the roof. Global, wealth has skyrocketed all around the world. Poverty has been reduced dramatically in recent years. We are in a golden age, and that's a golden age that our party created, right? We built this. This is a big deal, right? I make the case that, this work that we did is we probably have done more good for more people as a party than any other organized group in the history of the world who's built a world like this. It's also why we have to be so vigorous about defending it, because this really was the extension of the American Revolution to the rest of the world. More people live under democracy today than any time in human history, for example. So we're living in a golden age, and that's why we're being called as Democrats, the ones who built this world, to make sure it's preserved for our kids and their grandkids. And I think it's really important as we go forward in these battles to get more connected to the greatness of the Democratic Party and the things that we've done. Not only have we built this world that I described and conquering authoritarianism, but here at home, right, we've done extraordinary things during this period as well. And I think we have to recognize this. I mean, I am proud to be a Democrat. I'm proud of my party. I think we have really purposefully set out to try to do good. And since 1989 and the Berlin Wall fell, our presidents have moved the country forward. And the contrast between how we've continually moved things forward and the Republicans have continually failed to do their part is really, I think, this big project. We have to tell this story. It's critical. The country needs to understand this because it's part of our history. It's true. And any attempt to create an equivalency of the two parties obscures the fundamental reality of our time, which is that Democrats have done a lot of good. and Republicans have failed to do their part. But I think the story of the Republican Party now is not just about failure to do their part. It's become something else, right? It's also become about malevolence and illiberalism and authoritarian impulses, as we're seeing down in Florida right now. The Republican Party has mutated from a conservative party into a dangerous party of MAGA. And just like we have an obligation to tell the American people the story that I'm telling today, we have an obligation to be honest about what's happened with Republicans, right? This is not the party of Lincoln and Reagan any longer. This is now a far-right, illiberal, dangerous party that has contempt for democracy, contempt for rule of law, contempt for elections, contempt, for civil society in many ways. They want more people to die with guns and more people to die with COVID. We can go down the long list. They become a dangerous, reckless force. And so part of our job as proud patriots is to try to loosen the grip of MAGA on the Republican Party, not just to defeat Republicans, but to beat the Republicans in a way that MAGA goes into the dustbin of history and feels like a bad, terrible dream that we all had, as opposed to becoming a present reality in the years to come. And I think that as we think about, you often hear people say, well, what's gone wrong with America? American carnage, blah, 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 blah. Remember this, right? I mean, it's been the Democrats who repeatedly made things better in tumultuous and transformative times. Almost all the jobs created in the last 34 years has come under Democratic presidents, right? And so when you hear people talk about what's gone wrong, Washington isn't broken. Our politics isn't broken. One of our two political parties is broken. This is what's actually happened, right? Something has gone wrong with the Republican Party, not America, not our politics, not Washington, right? Not whatever you want to say. It's with them. And we have an obligation to tell this story truthfully and honestly to the American people, to our friends and family, to our peers, to voters, because this is the country they live in and they need to understand what's happening. And if there's any doubt about the threat of what the Republican Party's become, let's spend a moment looking at this, right? We know what we got to do, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And, we need to be loud and proud about what we've done. We are part of one of the most noble and consequential political projects in human history. And we have all, as a party, we've been called before, and we're being called again. Thanks.